It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. We're back live on the Big Mountain.
Hey, welcome to our Mountain Dwellers. And to be clear, our Mountain Dwellers, Steve, are anybody that's on right now and anybody that is a subscriber or viewer of the Big Mountain. We're Big Ten Mountain West. We've taken on the Pac-2. JEH knows that, the Beavs and the Cougs. We're looking to do a special episode with a special guest on them here in the coming weeks, if we can arrange a time to do that. And, of course, we have a lot of Seminole fans as well, as I think they seem to enjoy some of our reporting on what's going on there, and maybe some Tiger fans, too. You know, Clemson's, that's starting to get a little hot and heavy now, too, Steve.
So. Yeah, and I adopted Florida State this year. I'll be picking their games,
right?
Keep an eye on them. And maybe as things get a little hot and heavier, I might think about adopting those Clemson Tigers as well.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, as we get into the season, we're going to be picking every game in the Big Ten Mountain West. Steve's taking on the Seminoles. I'll be taking on most of the Beavs and the Cougs games as well. It should be a lot of fun. I am ready. I meant to count how many days we are until week 0. It's not many. It's not about two and a half months.
It's not many, but it's too damn many.
That's true. That's true. It's too damn many. But hey, we wanted to do some shout outs. I know I was texting a few people on or chatting with a few people on the chat message board since we were running a few minutes late. JEH, Steven, Squeeze Money. We have Genetics. We have Bill Cooper. We have David Hall. We have Minnesota Seminoles. He was here last week, so good to have you back, sir. We have anybody else? No, I know Genetics has been helping us out here doing a pre-show, giving some people some info, especially the Seminole crowd. We'll get to maybe some of those comments here in a little bit. But we're going to start out with some of the TV schedules. We'll start with the Big Ten. We'll go to the Mountain West. And then we'll obviously get to the college football playoffs and dates and things for that. And then once we're done with that, I really want to hear from our viewers. We're going to start talking about early indexes, the ESPN College Football Index, Power Index, whatever the heck they call it. And I'm in a little bit of a disagreement. If anybody follows us on X, make sure you do. If you're not, we're both on X. I said I'd throw a little shade at the ESPN Mountain West when they got it kind of screwed up. But we'll get into that. I don't want to give it away too much. So, are you ready to get going on the Big Ten?
I am ready.
All right, let's rock.
So, JY, when we were kind of preparing for this episode, I hopped back in the Big Ten time machine, and I looked last year at the TV schedule. And I think it was by May 23rd of last year, we had darn near the entire Big Ten TV schedule.
Okay.
There were some games that were left for a 12-day hold to see which network they were going to be on. But pretty much by May 23rd of last year, we knew every game, what network, it was 80 to 90% of the games, what network they were going to be on and everything. Well, This year is a total different year. SEC dropped off of CBS, so CBS is more focused this year on the Big Ten and some other things they have going on.
Yeah.
So it totally changed the calculus of the Big Ten TV draft, who picks what. There was some horse trading among picks. So it's been a slow trickle, and I know some Big Ten fans have been kind of they haven't been happy, especially my fellow Penn State fans. We still don't know what the whiteout game is going to be. But we did get some recent news. So, last episode we talked about some of the big noon games that were already announced, some of the big games. We talked about some of the early NBC games where they locked in and announced. But this week I want to talk about that CBS schedule. So I think we have that graphic up on the screen here for our viewers to see. So I just wanted to go through some key games that jumped out at me.
Okay.
So right out of the bat, week 1, Labor Day weekend, they're going to have, CBS gets Ohio State right out of the bat. Now it's Akron at Ohio State, but still, I think for CBS, as they've dropped off from the SEC and now they're going full-time investment into the Big Ten, they have Ohio State, probably the biggest TV draw, I think, in the country right now, them and Michigan and, maybe Georgia, Alabama, but they're right at the top. So right away, they get out of the gate with Ohio State home game, which is great. But also that week, something that really jumped out at me as a Big Ten guy watching the new teams that have come to the Big Ten, and then also with you being a Mountain West guy, that same weekend at 7:30, UCLA at Hawaii.
Yep.
I told you I cannot remember. I've been watching college football many years since the mid '80s, and I don't remember the last time we had a a game at Hawaii where Hawaii had a home game on a major over-the-air network. I mean, I'm sure it's probably happened, but I cannot remember the last time. So that game jumped out at me the first weekend. I mean, that's a good showcase for Hawaii, I think.
For sure, yeah.
So,
I mean, those first couple weekends, everybody is just
jazzed up.
Oh, they are thirsty for any college football they can watch. So, it's great to have them there. Got a couple new people real quick. Yeah. Jason, good to have you here. Go Cougs. Absolutely. Bill, I know he's been on several times as well. John Grove, good to have you here as well. So, anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So, just going to go through. I don't want to go through every single week of the schedule. There's just certain games that jumped out at me. So, moving forward, Iowa State at Iowa, they have September 7th. That's always a huge rivalry game. Notre Dame at Purdue, that's one of the oldest rivalry games. They've played many, many years. So out of the bat, right out of the gate, they're getting some of the Big Ten brands, and then they get Notre Dame at Purdue right away. So Purdue a little bit lower on the Big Ten brand scale, but Notre Dame at Purdue, Notre Dame being a huge draw, so that's pretty great for CBS. And then the big one. To basically finish their month, September 21st, USC at Michigan. I think this is a huge game for both of those teams. You have USC who's been they've been trying to rebuild. They have a new defensive coordinator. They've had great offensive success with their quarterbacks, but their defenses have been terrible. So they bring in Danton Lynn over from UCLA. They're hoping and expecting to have a fantastic defense this year, a better defense, I guess I should say.
Sure.
And Michigan, what are the defending national champs that just absolutely dominated people the last 2 years? Especially last year, what are they this year? Are they this? They that same powerhouse? This is a chance right out of the gate, a big game. One of the biggest brands in the Big Ten with the biggest brand of the old Pac-12 coming over. So a huge game, I think, for CBS. September 21st, that one really jumps out at me.
For sure.
And so then moving through the rest of September and October, they have a lot of games they haven't basically announced yet. But going into November, they want to close the season strong. Minnesota at Wisconsin on Friday, November 29th. That's Black Friday. I think that a lot of the networks are really moving towards putting more games on the Black Friday, more college football games. The NFL has kind of dominated Thursday, Thanksgiving. So you're seeing more of those big games. So that's a big rivalry game. Very interesting. I'm interested to see how that does on November 29th, and not Big Ten related, but also that same weekend, Stanford at San Jose State is getting CBS, coverage at 4:00 in the afternoon. So we'll be interested to see how that goes. And then the big thing this year, as far as I can remember, since I'm pretty sure ever since the Big Ten has had a championship game, it's always been on Fox. I don't think it's ever been on any other networks. And this year will be the first year that I can remember. It's going to be on another network. CBS has the Big Ten championship game, 9 o'clock, Saturday, December 7th. So that's huge. I love the CBS, the logo, the music when they start the game. So I'm looking forward to. I know you're not a big Gus Johnson guy.
No, not so much.
So maybe you'll appreciate the CBS coverage a little bit more now. The CBS commentators on the main network, they've been known as kind of SEC homers, so it's really going to be interesting this year with no SEC games, how they cover the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, the Fox coverage is fine, but I'm really excited to see a Big Ten championship game on CBS. I think that's huge for the conference, huge for the sport.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we took over, Mountain West took over the Fox game.
Yes, so. Yeah. There you go.
I'll get to that.
Yes, I'm excited about that. So that's all for CBS. So I want to move forward, and I think we're going to bring Brett McMurphy's tweet up on the screen here. If you're a college football fan, you got to be following Brett McMurphy. Not only just good regular reporting on teams and player personnel movement, but also more importantly, I think he covers the big business of college football. The different the expansion talk. Keeps up on the legal cases, keeps on the TV and media rights and schedules. So last year he tweeted out NBC's preferred lineup schedule around this time last year, and he was right. I think he had 2 games wrong that were later on. So he went ahead and tweeted it out again this year on June 3rd. So we have that up on the screen. I'm just going to go through this now. This is not the definite locked in stone schedule. Some of these games could change, but I expect about 80% of this to be correct. So he has September 21st, Iowa at Minnesota. September 29th or 28th, Illinois at Penn State. This is a possible, could be the whiteouts.
Yeah.
I said it kind of jokingly when I saw the schedule. This might end up being the whiteout. Penn State fans aren't too happy about that. But if it's going to be a night game on NBC, very good chance that this could be the whiteout because some of the other bigger games are going to be on Fox Big Noon.
Yep.
So that's a big one. If they're able to carry the whiteout on September 28th, that's pretty huge for them. October 5th, Michigan at Washington. I think that's another massive game.
Yes.
Again, two playoff teams from last year. Where are they this year in that pecking order in the Big Ten? And then October 12th, Ohio State at Oregon on NBC primetime. That's a massive game. Huge game. Huge game for, I'm sure it'll get huge ratings and huge implications for the Big Ten championship, for the national title chase, all that stuff. October 19th, Iowa at Michigan State, another good quality game. October 26th, Penn State at Washington. So it looks like, or Penn State at Wisconsin, I'm sorry. So it looks like Penn State will have two primetime games on, one home, one away on NBC this year. And then November 2nd, USC at Washington, another big game.
Yep.
And then November 9th, not technically a Big Ten game. However, Florida State at Notre Dame should be the primetime game there, November 9th. That's a huge game for the next Big Ten member playing at Notre Dame. And then November 16th, Oregon at Wisconsin, I think could be a real big game. November 23rd, the natural rivalry game of USC and UCLA, first time it'll ever be a Big Ten game. And then we end the season. What's really interesting is last year, Oregon and Washington, that was so huge for the conference standings and ultimately the college football playoff race. Mm-hmm. How's that going to play out this year? We don't really know. We think Washington is going to be down. But, if Oregon has a really good season and Washington is kind of rebuilding, how much would Washington love to knock Oregon off that perch and show that they're still right there? So they end the season strong, November 30th, Oregon at Washington. Again, I understand there's a lot of Big Ten fans, especially my fellow Penn State fans that are pissed about this big noon kickoff.
Yeah.
A lot of the bigger games of the season are going to be on at noon. They're not the night games. That's Fox's thing. We knew when Fox got this contract, that's what they're going to be doing. They get huge ratings for these noontime games. But to me, I think you have a pretty good schedule. You roll into the CBS schedule, the 3:30 schedule, and there's a lot more spots for them to fill in.
Right.
And then this NBC nighttime schedule, I think looks fantastic.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. So again, if you're a Big Ten fan, I get it. We don't love the big noon kickoffs all the time for some of our big games, but to set that up, for the Big Ten to have the most exposure, the biggest ratings, the biggest TV package, to roll from big noon over to CBS for this schedule, and then to finish the night, these NBC primetime games. Again, I think it's just fantastic exposure for the conference. As a Big Ten or as a Penn State fan, I would love that Ohio State Penn State game to go back to being the whiteout game, like when we were on ABC and ESPN. But that's just a different era. We don't have a contract with them anymore, so I'm real excited about this schedule.
Good, awesome. I have a question for you.
Yes,
and this isn't about schedule.
Okay.
So if you want to punt for another time when we start doing some of our previews, you're allowed to do that. But the Oregon versus Ohio State game, do you believe the loser of that game would still have a chance to be in the Big Ten championship game?
Yes.
Okay.
And what else? I'll add to that.
Okay.
I would say that there's probably more than 50-50 chance. Maybe we'll go 60 or 70% chance. I think that the Big Ten championship game will end up being a rematch of that Oregon Washington or Oregon Ohio State game. And so I think the loser definitely has a chance.
Right. Okay.
For sure.
I would agree. I think let's see what Penn State does.
Yeah.
They could make a little noise. We have to see what Michigan does. But yeah, all right. I kind of thought that, but wanted to see what you had to say there.
Yeah, it's a great question. And so and some people might say it takes a little bit of the luster off the game. I don't think so, because whoever wins it, to me, is in the driver's seat to get into that championship game for sure.
Well, look at Oregon and Washington last year.
Yes.
My goodness gracious. Both of those games are fantastic. If it's going to be Oregon, Ohio State this year at the same level, give it to me twice, please.
Yep.
My goodness. All right. Well, hey, the one thing I want to say before we get into the Mountain West is, and then we'll get into the college football playoffs, but I know we have some Seminole fans on here. Seminole fans, everyone's well aware that they start their season over in Dublin, Ireland against Georgia Tech, August 24th. I know they're getting a big party together over there. I know our friend of the show, Doug Rohan, is going over.
Yeah.
I think they are trying to plan something to let everyone know, to let ESPN know how upset they were with what occurred last year. I was on a show recently, and he was putting out the memo that if you're going, you need to, kind of get in with Doug and his crew, because they will be planning some things for ESPN.
I like it.
To show how upset they are, and I'm being very kind.
Salacious.
Yes. So anyway, I'm anxious to see it.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the pregame to see what kind of crazy crap they do.
Heck yeah.
It's going to be fantastic. But anyway, we got some new people on. Joey here, he's the Ohio State. He says is winning the Big and the Chip. We have Zyler's back, Goal Knowles. Mike is here again, so good to have all of you back. I know the chat is very, very active. We can't quite keep up with it. We appreciate Genetics throwing some good stuff in there, so we're going to keep going here with the Mountain West. I'm going to do similar to what Steve did, just highlight some things. I don't have anything to really put up on the screen. So the Mountain West here, and I'm going to throw in, of course, some Beavs and Cougs information. So I know we've got a few Beavs and Cougs fans on right now, the Pack 2, as you will. So you're going to be hearing me talk about them, not only because there's the scheduling alliance, but because there's some things I want to talk about with their schedule that I think is very interesting. So let's start. We've got both the CBS television networks and the main CBS. We've got obviously CBS Sports, which is where the majority of the Mountain West games will be seen. We have some Fox games on the flagship, and then we have, of course, Fox Sports. So I'm going to break it down by where these things are going to be airing. You mentioned the UCLA-Hawaii game on August 31st. I say that's great. I mean, I'm not interested, frankly, in either of those teams. I'm a Mountain West guy. I'm not so much a Hawaii guy, but I think it's great to have them on a flagship network like CBS.
Great exposure.
August 31st. Fantastic. Then on CBS television network, you've got September 14th, you've got the Buffs versus Colorado State, the Rams. So Colorado State, we all know what happened last year in that game. Should be another interesting game. I'm glad they're getting the billing for that. I know it's Deion Sanders garbage, but I think it should be a good game regardless. October 5th, we've got the Air Force versus Navy game on CBS. And then November 29th, Stanford and San Jose State. I'm not 100% sure why that one's on CBS, because Stanford, we have our issues with them, and San Jose State is not the team they were. They're not going to be the team they were last year, but that's okay. I'll take a Mountain West team.
Good exposure for them.
I'll take a Mountain West team on there. So 4 different teams: Hawaii, Colorado State, Navy, and San Jose State get the top billing here, hopefully. So then we have 2 games on Fox. We've got the Oregon State versus Boise State game on November 29th. You mentioned there's Friday game. Steve, this game is at 10 a.m. Mountain time.
Okay.
10 a.m. Mountain time. Wow. So, of course, they want to get the big noon Friday kickoff on that day. Yes. But it's at 10 a.m.
So that's Black Friday, right?
I'm 99% sure. I didn't write Friday, but I'm 99% sure that's a Friday.
That's a fantastic way to start. I'm ready.
Oregon State, Boise State.
I'll be in my pajamas, eating turkey, and watching. I'm ready.
Yes, that one really stuck out to me. Should be a really good game and a really big game. November 29th, the end of the regular season. Boise State possibly at that point pushing for that G5 spot, as we've said several times. We'll see what happens. And then December 6th, as I said, Fox takes the Mountain West championship game. They're going to put it on Fox December 6th. That's fantastic. We both really appreciated that. The venue last year in Vegas, just phenomenal. So
and I think that's a Friday night as well, I'm pretty sure.
That would make sense. Yes, I think it is a Friday. You're right. It is a Friday. Yep. So good stuff there. So CBS Sports then will air 27 games. That's the most of any network. CBS Sports. I'm going to hit a couple of them here. September 14th, we've got Utah versus Utah State. Utah State doesn't stack up to Utah. I get
Yeah.
that, but you get that rivalry, and that should be fun. And then you get the September 14th, you get BYU versus Wyoming.
Ooh.
I think this is going to be a close game. We'll obviously do a preview of that. Maybe get our buddy Jim back on to talk about that game. That, as he said, that's the one that everyone's going to be looking forward to. So September 14th. And then we've got Boise State versus UNLV on October 25th. That's the rematch of the championship game last year. And then November 15th, we've got the border war, Wyoming going down to Colorado State this year in November. Should be a cold one. Maybe it'll be some snow on the ground. Let's fight hard there, everybody. And then Fox Sports will air 15 games on September 28th. They're going to have Fresno versus UNLV and Washington State versus Boise State. So I'm going to be plopping in my chair on September 28th watching both of those games. I guarantee that. The Bulldogs versus the Rebels, and then the Cougs versus the Broncos should be two very good games. And then October 12th, we've got the Bulldogs versus the Cougs back on Fox Sports. So really good stuff. Some non-conference highlights that I want to get to here with the Mountain West. October 31st, you mentioned it, Fresno State going to Michigan, 7:30 prime time. I mean, let's be honest here, as the Mountain West, I can't be much happier with some of the billing that we're getting.
August
here.
31st, right?
What did I say?
You said October 31st.
I'm sorry,
August
August,
31st.
yes.
So right out of the gate, first week.
Thank you.
Yes.
August. I have it written down. I just felt like saying October. I'm thinking like, you know what I'm thinking?
Halloween.
I'm thinking
Beer.
Oktoberfest is
Yes.
what I'm thinking. But anyway, August 31st, yes, Fresno State, Michigan. And the same day, August 31st, is Wyoming versus Arizona State and UNLV versus Houston, both on FS1. I'm going to need 3 TV. Well, I will say that it's so the UNLV Houston game I think is at 7, and it goes right into the Wyoming Arizona State game at like 10:30.
Yep.
So you're good to go on FS1, and of course I got to watch some of the Fresno game.
Can I say something quick about the Fresno
You're
State,
going to do the pick?
I'm gonna. Yeah, it's not a pick, not an
Okay,
official
no.
pick, but I just want to let our audience know. I went ahead and put a bet on Fresno State plus 21.5.
It's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points, and I went ahead and did a money line, a $5 easy money line. I think they were plus 1,200
no
on
idea.
the odds. So I think that's a trap game for Michigan with all the changes, everything they lost. Fresno State is going to come into that super motivated. I think because I think they believe that they have a chance to make the college football playoff this year, be that that G5 team, and what a way to come out and make a statement. The first week, first weekend. I'm excited for that game.
I agree. It's going to be great. I know. So Bill's just chiming in. Yes, day after Thanksgiving is the Boise State Oregon State game. Going to be great. I'm excited for this year. Maybe I'll do some texting out on, or not texting, Xing out on X, and maybe
live
do
tweet
some
the
live,
games.
just
Yeah.
some live stuff happening
I like
here.
it.
We're gonna go to a next level here on the Big Mountain. I think this coming season. So we got Josh back. Go Aggies. That's right. I think they're gonna have a good season. We'll get into some of that here in a little bit when we get into the power index mode here, and then. Very disappointed. September 7th, Boise State and Oregon. That was going to be the next one I get to. September 7th. Bill must see my notes because that's exactly what I was going to say next. Boise State versus Oregon, unfortunately on Peacock. I don't know what to say about that. It's, the network's doing whatever they do. I've seen some people try to spin that in a positive light. I don't know how positive you can get on that, but it is what it is. September 13th, UNLV versus Kansas on ESPN. This is a rematch of the Guaranteed Rate Bowl from last year. Unfortunately, Kansas they were great last year. I think they could be even better this coming year.
Yep.
UNLV does not have Maava. Yes, they brought in some quarterbacks. Good luck on that rematch, Rebels. I wish them the very, very best. But hey, another game on ESPN. You can't scoff at that. October 19th is UNLV versus Oregon State. That's on the CW. So I got to start mentioning the CW here with the Beavs and Cougs. And let's get to some of the Beavs and Cougs games. September 14th, 2 games that stuck out to me. The Oregon State versus Oregon game on Fox. And then September 14th is the Washington State game on Peacock.
Oh, back on Peacock.
Peacock.
So we have the Civil War there and the Apple Cup.
That's right.
Yeah.
Same day.
Yeah.
Same day. One's on Fox and one's relegated to Peacock.
So I'm gonna spin a little positive on the Peacock thing. I know it's a pain because a lot of people don't have it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I can tell you from just kind of keeping my ear to the ground, or just the perception of the Big Ten and NBC and what they're doing with Peacock. Those games, they're promoting them heavily. They're putting a lot of money into the production. They want to get more fans. So it's not just a throwaway game. It is. They are trying to. They're picking some special games because they want to get more
trying to
subscribers
push
for
people
Peacock.
there, for sure. Yeah.
So they're putting money. They're investing money into it. They're investing effort into it. Whereas I'll say some of the ESPN games, they got like one camera that pans around, and the guys don't even sound like they're in the studio.
Yeah,
or they don't sound like that they're in the stadium. They're in the studio 1,000 miles away.
We've mentioned that before. Sometimes, ESPN is thought as being, and I know there's a lot of hate for ESPN.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. I mean, if they're pushing, especially these streaming services,
Yes.
it's taken maybe a little bit longer than some people would have thought, but it's going and it's going to get there.
Yep.
So that's a great point. A couple other people I want to say hello to. That college football guy was on. He has his own channel there if anybody wants to check that out. And then we had Jamie Goodwin as well. I miss saying hello to those two. And Darren Thornton says hello. Streaming football is awful. Well, we'll try it. We'll see what happens. But
you might have to get used to it because
Yeah.
it might be the future.
and then, of course, the Pac championship game, as I'm calling it.
Yeah.
The Pac-12 championship game, November 23rd. Oregon State versus Washington State on the CW. We've done several episodes on just the scheduling. They finally got a daggone agreement with the CW, and I think it's great for them. And it puts them in almost every household that has a TV in America. I think it's a win-win there. They can parlay that with the ACC. I saw some of that going back and forth. They're going to be, when the ACC games are on, they're going to be advertising their Pac games and vice versa. So they're building a college football presence.
It's over the air. It's going to be available over the air, and then also, I was looking at our cable guide. We have Comcast here in the Northeast of Pennsylvania, and the CW channel I think is right between CBS and ABC. So it's sandwiched right there. So when people are looking at their guide, looking what's on, it's pretty easy to find.
The last thing I want to say before we get into the college football playoffs, there was some big news here recently, one last week and one that just dropped, I believe, yesterday from Boise State, and I have to bring it up here. So last week they put out their Mr. Dickey, the athletic director. They're doing a home and home with Appalachian State. September 27th, 2025 is actually in Boise. And September 4th, 2027 is over on the East Coast. Fantastic. You get two of the top, G5 schools to play each other. It gives you that gauge. We talked about in past episodes, maybe the Mountain West and the American getting some sort of a partnership going. Get the Sun Belt in here too. I mean, that's the top dog, at least has been the top dog for a while now. It gives you that litmus test, and you got to win that game. Again, I mean, that's a win or lose. You lose, you're not going to make the playoff. You win it, maybe it elevates you to the playoff. So a huge game for both of those teams, both times in September. It's a great ad for Boise. And then the big news that just hit yesterday, October 4th, 2025, at Notre Dame. It's so good. They're getting 1.35 mil. They can get up to 5,000 tickets. They'll sell them. I mean, that's easy for Boise State. Fantastic at Notre Dame. I saw a lot of people throwing all kinds of different schools out, and I don't think anybody put Notre Dame out. And fantastic.
And that's a no-lose situation for them because no matter win or lose, get blown out, whatever, it's massive exposure. If they lose, well, they're expected to lose. I mean, it's no big deal. If they go in and score an upset, like that is a season-defining moment. So it's all win-win for them. And they get money. They're getting paid.
We're getting paid, and it's what you got to do. I mean, if you want the G5 spot, somebody's got to make a name for themselves because somebody will. Somebody will have an upset, and all of a sudden, it happens at the beginning of the season. They get put in that spot unless they crap the bed for some reason.
Right.
It's theirs to own.
And I would say you don't even have to get the upset. You just play well and look respectable. I think, was it Wyoming with Texas last year?
Texas Tech, they beat them.
They beat Texas Tech, but then they also played Texas.
They played Texas very close until the fourth quarter.
Right.
Yes,
They were right with them, either with a lead or within a touchdown into the third quarter. So.
Great point. So, all right, let's get to the college football playoff real quick. That just came out. I think we have a doohickey to put on the screen. What do you
Yes.
call that? Logo?
Okay, so
I don't know.
we're rolling in the college
Yeah,
football playoff.
just real quick for the dates and stuff, because that
Okay.
just came out. So the first round dates here, December 20th and 21st, 2 games are going to be on the ABC, ESPN, and then as we reported a couple weeks ago when it came out, we saw that 2 are going to be on TNT as well. That's the first round games. Then we've got December 31st, January 1st on ESPN. Those are the, I guess you would call, quarterfinal games. Your semis then on January 9th and 10th, and then the championship game, as you said long ago, January 20th,
Yep.
which, quite frankly, I think is great because we
Yep.
can talk about college football long,
all the way in. Yep.
all the way through January. And then you got a couple weeks of just relishing whatever the hell happened.
Yeah, I think the schedule is fantastic. You have the one weekend with 3 games. It's just tons and tons of football. When you match it up, there's a little bit of overlap with the NFL schedule, but some of those weekends, if you match it up, you can. If for the football fans, man, they could just roll right. College football, NFL, college football, NFL,
Yeah.
and then we have to leave their couch for like 36 straight hours, except to pee. But
Well, do you even have to?
maybe not.
I don't know. Have a bottle.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've never done that, by the way. Hey, so Leonard, and I know that we've had a ton of comments. If there's any for us, if you can just do the at the Big Mountain Podcast so it shows up for us, but please have at it with each other. Love to see all these comments coming back and forth. But Leonard Lithen made a comment about streaming services going to fail because there isn't much demand there. I guess time will tell. They're trying to push demand there. Whether the demand goes, I guess, is the question. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard. I think it's a hard question. The thing is would everything naturally move? No, I don't think so.
Right.
But the companies are pushing it. They're investing it. I listened to ESPN's Disney's latest shareholder meeting that they had online, and I mean they're investing so much in Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. The people who are making the decisions are putting all of their eggs into that basket. So I don't think they're going to let it fail, but we'll see. I did want to address genetics in that college football guy. They're discussing Colin Cowherd. Why is he pushing the talk of USC should drop Notre Dame? Honestly, I'm going to take a guess that this is just part of what we've talked about before. Is Colin he's a Fox guy. He's a company guy.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think the Big Ten is going to pressure Notre Dame directly, but as things continue to fall apart with the ACC, I think the TV networks are going to start to push Notre Dame to have more games with Big Ten teams. That's where the ratings are. There's a couple teams in the ACC that they play that get good ratings, but when they really get good ratings is when they play Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
Just so many good natural rivalries. So I'm going to say that's probably, and Colin is smart. He knows what's up with the networks and the business side of everything. So I think he's just trying to make a little bit of buzz, create a little controversy. That's what he likes to do. But in the end, it is that pushing of like, hey, Notre Dame, this is where your money is at. This is where your bread is buttered. You're hiding down there in the ACC for now. But, if you want to be a big time player, you need to be playing more games with the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So that's just my guess on him and why he's kind of pushing that agenda.
That would make sense. That there's agendas. There's
Yes.
agendas everywhere. So as we're seeing right now with some of what's going on, and the other thing, Bill mentions Marshall beat Notre Dame in 22.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
And I know we had a couple new people. Expedition Greg is on. He's been on several times. Great to have you back, Darren Thornton. Good to have you here. I think we're upwards of 50 or 60 people that are watching, which is fantastic. And now it's great we have this many people because I want to hear from them on some of this stuff. This ESPN college football power index.
Yes.
So do you want to? Well, we're going to start with the top 25, right? Let's
Yeah.
let's start with that.
Let's start with the top 25, and maybe you could talk about that a little bit. Anything that surprises you, and then I'll specifically talk about the Big Ten, the chances of winning the Big Ten based on this ESPN FPI.
All right, so I believe we have that. We have that up. Awesome. Our producer is kicking butt.
PWB Productions in the house. He's
Absolutely. So I'm not going to go through every team here, but I'm going to point out some of my interesting teams that I saw, and please, you can chime in with ever. So the top 4, to me, clear cut. I mean, you can move them around, shuffle them around any which way. Little surprise, honestly, that Ohio State is 4 here, maybe. But again, it's the top 4, and I think it's a clear-cut top 4. No issues here whatsoever. The first one I go down and say, Notre Dame at 7. That's the first one I think, that's interesting. They have a great defense.
Yeah.
They have a great defense. But their offense, maybe not so much. And I don't know. We'll see.
So they brought in, I forget his name, Notre Dame, they brought in the transfer from Duke, the quarterback from Duke, was pretty good there the last 2 years, and he's good both with his arm and his feet. And from what I've heard on different radio shows, different podcasts, is that they, using NIL, they brought in some new wide receivers. So they might have a few more tools this year. They already had a really good offensive line last year.
Yeah.
They didn't have any passing weapons last year.
Yeah.
This year they may have some more passing weapons and a more dynamic quarterback.
If they want to be top 7 in the nation, they better have some dynamic something. So that one just stuck out. I think, is it maybe wishful thinking? I don't know. We'll see. Tennessee at number 9, I know, our Florida State Seminole fans, and I know we've got some on right now, hate it.
Yeah.
They hate to see Tennessee at 9 and Florida State at 11. How do you feel about that, Tennessee at 9?
Both are really talented teams and they're pretty close. So the thing about the FPI is it's all a numbers thing, and a lot of it is returning production from last year.
Yeah.
Florida State lost a ton in the draft. They had a fantastic draft. I don't think Tennessee lost quite as much. And then also Florida State has brought in a lot in a transfer portal, and I don't know if the FPI really is a good metric of that. I'm sure the Florida State fans are probably they're a little pissed at that rating.
I would think they are.
But they got Florida State fans that got a chip on their shoulder. They got left out of the college football playoff. Yeah. There probably will be. I heard this on another show. They'll probably be the last ever undefeated conference champion of a power conference to be left out of a college football playoff. So they already got a kind of a chip on their shoulder, and this is just more ammo for them, I think.
Yeah, agree, Mike Porter. College football is the best. Totally concur.
Yes.
That's why we're talking about it. And thank you, that college. Well, we have a couple of people, Darren and that college football guy. I should have mentioned Riley Leonard is the new quarterback. Yes, I have that written down. I didn't bring it up, but yes, he is the new quarterback there in Notre Dame. So we'll see what he can do.
Yeah,
he better be damn good there with Notre Dame.
I have a couple thoughts on here. Do you have any more thoughts?
I do, but let's stop at the top 10. Anything in the top 10 that I didn't talk about?
So I really think it's interesting. Well, I think it's interesting that Michigan, they fell all the way out of the top 10.
Yeah.
They lost a lot. Obviously, their head coach, they lost so much to the draft. Alabama stayed up there pretty high. I was really interested to see where they would be. Losing Nick Saban, everyone kind of expected just basically a mass exodus, but DeBoer coming in, he actually kept that roster pretty well intact. So they're right there in 5th. I think those top 4 teams, really, I think you could throw a blanket over them and it doesn't even really matter. Missouri, top 10, that's huge for them. So Notre Dame, the thing about Notre Dame is they had a really good defense last year, and I hate Notre Dame. Okay, I'm just gonna say I don't like Notre Dame, but they had a great defense last year. I think there's a chance they improve their offense, and this doesn't go into the FPI rankings, but they have a butter soft schedule this year. They have a ridiculously soft schedule. I think I would give them a 90% chance of making the college football playoff. Just the way their schedule is, and I think they're slightly improved from last year.
Okay. Well, let's keep going. Michigan was the next one I was going to talk about at 12. I really wasn't sure where they were going to be. I mean, that's a big wild card there. I mean, I'm sure some people think they should be higher. Some people think they should be lower. And so that's where they end up at 12. Kansas, I want to say at 17. Ooh, they could be a sleeper.
Yes.
They could be a sleeper. I like this team a lot. We'll see what they can do this year. I mean, I think it's okay where they're at here in the preseason, early FPI. But hey, watch out there for them. I'm big on Kansas this year. So.
Yeah, Kansas. The great coach Leopold, I think, is their coach, Lance Leopold. And then I'm pretty sure their quarterback is coming back this year. I mean, I don't follow Kansas in general, but pretty sure their quarterback is back. He had a great season last year. I'll tell you one. I mentioned I was kind of surprised by Missouri being top 10. Ole Miss being all the way at 16, like I would have thought that those two would have been flipped. So that really surprised me a little bit.
Wow.
And then the SMU being in there at 25, they must be returning a heck of a lot of production. But this is, if they are returning a lot of starters in production, this is a year for them as I believe they're going to be playing in ACC this year.
Yeah.
If they can make some noise and go crazy, like they might be jumping back up a few levels.
Well, the two I was going to mention here towards the bottom, USC at 18. I mean, I know they got talent out the yin yang.
Yeah.
They always do. But they can't ever seem to put it together.
Yeah.
So I don't know. USC at 18. And then, SMU. I kind of like seeing them in the top 25 as like I don't know if you want to call them underdog, but smaller school. But yeah, they are. There they are at 25. We'll see what happens. And I'm glad you mentioned Missouri. I know there's a ton of hype around Missouri this year. They had a phenomenal year last year. So we'll see. Being in the top 25. I'll tell you the one that's not on here that totally surprises me.
Okay.
Now, if it's mainly off of last season's stats, this is probably why.
I think I was going to say earlier, I think like the first 4 weeks, they're basically going off of last season and then the percentage of returning production from last year.
Yeah.
After we get through 4 weeks of the season, the formula kind of gets refreshed.
I read all their garbage at the bottom and I went, it's a bunch of hogwash anyway. But so the one this won't surprise you at all. It's a team I love to love.
Okay.
The Utah Utes. Where the
Yeah.
freaking heck is Utah? Rising's coming back, assuming he's going to be as good as he was. I'm going to say he is. Where the freaking heck is Utah?
Yeah, well, I think their offense was so bad. They were like Iowa they had such a great defense. Their offense was kind of bad, and I don't know how their formula could account for Rising since he didn't play last year.
It probably doesn't.
Right. I think they would be my favorite. I think they're a lot of people's favorite to win the Big 12. So if they come out, start 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, whatever, they'll be climbing those rankings.
All right, so there it is. Josh says Utah. I don't know if he put that before I said it or not. I promise I didn't cheat and steal from Josh. But he called it. I guess anybody else? Is there any teams that didn't make the top 25 outside of Utah? Because that's Josh and me. Any other teams you're like, hey, what happened? Where's the love for X, Y, and Z? Let us know who you think they're missing here and who you think they maybe completely missed the boat on. Who's in the top 25 and you're just scratching your freaking head.
Squeezed money ass. Isn't Rising like 30 years old now? I mean, he's irrelevant. Right. He's definitely an older dude. Like, he looked like he was 40 2 years ago when Penn State knocked his ass out of the Rose Bowl. And he
had to say that, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And he's been broken ever since. But that's the thing with college football now with these, the extra medical year, the COVID year, all this stuff. It's these 5th, 6th year starters. Look at last year in Washington. Washington and Oregon were two great examples. Penix and Bo Nix. Both of those guys I think were 5th or 6th year guys. So I honestly I think that might be the formula right now is if you can get an experienced 5th or 6th year quarterback.
Oh my goodness.
Look at Oregon this year. A big part of the reason that they're ranked so high, even after losing Bo Nix, is they're bringing Dylan Gabriel, which I think this is his 6th year. That's a good formula for winning, I think, right now.
Experience is king. It is king. So we're getting a few comments. We're saying Florida and maybe SMU, giving a little bit of a question mark here. And we got Utah, and we've got PA Mountaineers saying, where's West Virginia at?
So West Virginia, I think last year finished the season. I think they won their last 5 games of the season. I think they're going to be right there in the mix. I'm guessing their best, I forget his name, their best player, he was an offensive lineman last year. I think he might have been a center. He was drafted. So I think there's people who are wondering, what's their offensive line going to be? Because they're a run-heavy team. They really depend on that, playing physical run. But they have a great opportunity right out of the bat against my Penn State Nittany Lions.
Yeah.
If they can upset them and then go into that Big 12 schedule, they could have a heck of a year. And Steven, is it Vite or Vite? How do we Vit? Okay. He says preseason rankings are terrible. I totally get it, especially the ones that the polls, those preseason rankings.
Yes.
This is just FPI. It's just a mathematical formula based on how well they've done, how well they've recruited, their returning production. So those numbers will change as we get into the season.
There you go. Your PA Mountaineer got you.
Yeah, what did he say?
Zach Frazier.
Okay, Zach Frazier. There you go. Yeah. He and a hell of a player. And last year, I'll tell you, West Virginia gave Penn State everything that they could handle, and Penn State's strength of their defense, they had one of the best defenses in the country. Their strength was the rush defense, and the Mountaineers gave them everything they could handle.
Yeah, it was a close game last year with them. So, all right, you want to go into the Big Ten? What I looked at this and I went, holy cow. I have much more to talk about with the Mountain West.
Yes.
I mean, you might have a lot to talk about, but man, it's like 3 teams and then nobody's got a freaking chance.
Yeah, so let's bring up that graphic. The chance of winning the Big Ten from ESPN FPI. So here's the thing. The story with the Big Ten for a long time has been they were top heavy. You had 2 or 3 teams at the top that had a chance to win. And everybody else was just way behind. So they bring in 4 teams, the top 4 teams, basically the top 4 teams from the pack: USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon. So the math is going to change, the calculus is going to change. So I look at the rankings here, and what do we have? 3 teams at the top we have Oregon at 37.5% chance of winning based on FPI. Ohio State with 25.7, and Penn State with 22.2, and everyone else in single digits. So we have the same thing. What's the old saying about the more things change, the more they stay the same, something like that.
Right.
Oregon. Here's the thing: the big open question about Oregon is how are they going to manage in a Big Ten with that physical play every week? They have the talent. They have a great coach. They brought in Dylan Gabriel, experienced quarterback. They have every necessary ingredient to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country and potentially to win the Big Ten in the first year. But that is the open question, and that it's going to be answered. Their schedule, they get right into it. I think they're playing both Michigan and Ohio State this year. Those questions are going to be answered. I think they're going to do just fine based on, basically their coach and the style of play that they operate under now, which is completely different than before. So Oregon, 37.5% chance of winning, and I think part of that is because, it's the assumption probably is with Ohio State and Michigan that the loser of that game will probably be knocked out unless they're both undefeated coming into that.
Yeah.
The thing that really surprised me, and I'm a Penn State fan, and I think Penn State has a chance to compete and definitely a chance to get into the playoff, but they're the third. It doesn't surprise me that they're the third because Michigan lost so much.
Yep.
But they're right behind Ohio State.
Yep.
Just a few percentage points behind Ohio State. That kind of surprises me. That jumped out at me. And then how far Michigan has fallen. And I think that's just because based on the FPI, they've lost so much production. But when you look at these other teams, 0.5%.
It's unbelievable.
For Washington, who was in the national championship game last year. Washington is basically tied with Maryland at who has 0.4%. And even Northwestern at 0.1%. And they literally, even the mathematic formula says that Indiana and Michigan State have a 0% chance to win based on the ESPN formula. How would you feel if you were on one of those teams that a 0% chance to win?
Just sit out of here.
Yeah.
Sit out. Don't take the field.
Yeah.
You know who's not upset about that? Are Beeve fans.
Yes.
They are not upset at all.
No, they don't care.
They are happy to see it. If it could be a negative, they'd be happy to see a negative number.
Yeah.
For Michigan State.
I think it'll be interesting this year who finishes higher, Oregon State or Michigan State.
Yeah.
In either in the rankings, if either one of them were to make in the rankings or by FPI, we should keep an eye on that and maybe track that.
Yeah, for sure. My money would absolutely be on the Beavers right now. Just me. But anyway, all right. So, you may get to the Mountain West.
I'm done with Big Ten.
Okay, so I'm not going to do it quite the same way, and I don't have a cool little doohickey to put up.
Okay.
But I'm going to throw shade on what they did with the Mountain West. Because they've got Boise State here. They think Boise State's going to finish at 8-4. I'm looking at more. They actually give a range, or not a range, but they give what their record's going to be.
Yes.
And of course, it's like 7.5 to 6.6 or something like that. So I've rounded everything. But Boise State at 8.4. If Boise State ends at 8.4, it is a massive disaster for them this year. They cannot be an 8-4 team this year. As we've said last 2 weeks, I have taken Boise State as a pick to be over 8.5 wins. Actually, Steve, that line has moved. When I first took it, it was minus 165. Today it's minus 210.
Okay.
So I'm not the only one that thinks they're going to be over 8.5, except ESPN. They don't think they're going to be over 8.5. But I don't agree with ESPN. I don't agree with hardly anything that they put here for the Mountain West. But anyway, they got Boise State winning it at 8-4. They have Fresno at 7-5.
Okay.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
I still think Fresno's better than will be better than 7-5. The one that I scratch my head at the most,
This, yeah.
and I put this on Twitter. I shared this, and I went, I'm okay with the top two, at least not in wins and losses, but where they have them ranked, the top two teams. Number 3 and number 4 blow my ever-loving mind.
Yes.
San Diego State to be 7-5. If San Diego State's 7-5 this year, I will eat a dirty sock.
Okay.
They're not going to be 7-5.
Live on the big mountain, JY eats a dirty sock.
And then San Jose State 6-6. If they're lucky, they'll be 6-6. But they're not going to be 4th in the Mountain West, for crying out loud. What are we talking about here, ESPN? Stop with your damn computers and use a little bit of daggone brain power, for crying out loud. So finally, we get to 5th, UNLV, another team that they think is going to be 6-6. And okay, I'll give a little bit of question mark around the quarterback situation there.
Yeah.
But they still return a decent number of players, have a great coaching staff. You saw what they did in year 1 of being there at UNLV. So again, I think 6-6 is a stretch. Air Force they have at 7-5. If Air Force ends at 7-5, I say good job on you, because they're turning over the entire freaking team.
Yep.
So if they can be 7-5, and they have, again, great coaching staff, they know what they have here, they know what works. I get all of that, but they're not going to be a 7-5 team. My Wyoming Cowboys and Josh's Utah State Aggies both at 6-6. I don't like that either. And you know, as last week I took Wyoming to be over 6.5. I pounded it too, Steve. I'm not making it a lock, but I am making it a pick. Wyoming over 6.5, and you can get Utah for 5.5 right now.
I took the Wyoming over 6.5. I didn't bet the house. I just bet the shed.
Good. Okay. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I also like the Utah State at 5.5. That's what you can get right now. I don't know what the odds are on it, but I like it. And then they have CSU all the way down here. And then the bottom 3, okay, Hawaii, New Mexico, Nevada. We get it. They're going to be the bottom 3. But I will say they have New Mexico at 4-8.
Yeah.
Which surprises me. I know they won 4 games last year.
Yeah.
But 4-8 with all that turnover. FanDuel has them as a 1.5. Which I looked at that and went, holy crap, 1.5 is stupid low.
Yeah.
That's a sucker bet, but I'm not a sucker. I don't believe it yet. Now, when I get to the preview episodes and we get to all that, we'll see what happens. But FanDuel absolutely does not agree with ESPN New Mexico at 4-8. Athlon Sports, if I may, real quick.
Yeah.
I saw they posted one. They were much better. Much better. Still not exact, but much better. Here was their ranking. Boise State, UNLV, Fresno State, they're your top 3. I have no issues with that at all. They have Air Force at 4. I think they're putting too much stock into last year. I do. I do. That's the one I say, ooh, you're a little high. They have CSU at 5. Maybe. Now, they did include the Beavs and the Cougs here, which I appreciated. They did a whole Western thing. But, and then so they got Oregon State next, and then Wazoo right after them. So right smack dab in the middle. Then we got Wyoming and Utah State. I think Wyoming and Utah State still are a little bit low here. I'm higher on these two teams, and apparently everybody is, but I was high on Wyoming last year, and everybody said I was a fool, and guess what?
Even the Wyoming fans.
I was a fool all the way to the bank.
Yes.
Screw them. And then after that, we got San Diego State down where they really should be, and then Hawaii, and then San Jose State. Again, they're going to struggle. New coach.
Yeah.
Turned over a lot of players. The quarterback, the star running back. San Jose State could be a bit of a struggle. And then our bottom 2. I'm sorry, Lobos fans, and I know we have Lobos fans, but Nevada and New Mexico down at the bottom.
Yeah. So it's a good comparison because you have one that's like objective and one that's subjective. And normally people think, oh, objective is better than subjective. Well, here's the thing is it's really hard going off of last year's numbers and those projections. There's been a lot of turmoil in the Mountain West. You know, as far as new players coming in that I think are going to be could be a huge difference, and players leaving. So I think it's maybe even harder for them to calculate that for the smaller conferences and smaller teams. So that might be part of it. I'm interested to see where those numbers and how they change. Let's say after week 4. I think we should revisit that in an episode, week 5 episode. We're doing our week 5 picks. We should revisit, look at where the FPI is, and compare. My Athlon, my take on them. I'm surprised, and you're the Mountain West guy, but I'm surprised so many people have that highest, really high faith in UNLV. Continuing on. I mean, to me, the key to their success last year was Maeva.
Yep.
Losing him, it makes it such a wild card.
It does.
Like for me, honestly, I would be okay switching UNLV with Wyoming. If you just made a switch there in their rankings. And I'm a little surprised having Air Force and CSU ahead of Oregon State and Washington State.
Yeah.
I don't think I would do that. But we'll see how it goes.
Well, I'm gonna give you JY's super duper early line of who he thinks the top 5 in the Mountain West are. So I'm not gonna include the Beavs and the Cougs.
Okay, just actual
pure
conference.
Mountain West Conference. Who do I think the top 5 teams are right now in June? This is JY's FPI, which has 0 stats behind it. Yep. It's all brain power. So top 5 in no order. I'm just going to go down the list that Athlon had here. But it's going to be Boise State, UNLV, Fresno State, Wyoming, and Utah State are my top 5 in the Mountain West.
Say that again. So
Boise State, UNLV, Fresno State, Wyoming, Utah State.
Okay.
Top 5.
All right.
Not in any order, but they're my top 5 in the Mountain West. As we sit here today, I agree. I think Air Force is overranked in both of these. And if ESPN is stat based, San Diego State had gobs of now maybe the players they're bringing in they have rated high, and so they're giving them a lot of index for them. But San Jose State just confuses me at 4 because they're losing a lot of talent there. So I don't know. I don't even want to try to figure it out.
Yeah, I really think it's the off season. It's fun to talk about the FPI rankings, but I really think we won't get an accurate picture until we get through those first 3 or 4 weeks, and then I think we'll see a really good picture of where they're actually at for the season.
So, Josh, yes, absolutely. 2021, we were supposed to be 8th in the Mountain West. How did that pan out? Yeah, how did that pan out? Fantastic. And then I agree, 6 and 6. That coach's seat will be really hot. Yes, it will.
What's his name? Anderson. Yeah. I like him.
I like him too,
coach.
But I'm with Josh. They can't be 6 and 6 this year. I gave them that 500 record last year. Mm-hmm. That's about where they were. You got to push up into the top 5 at least. Yeah. I mean, I think Josh is going to say they need to be top 3 or 4 probably, but we'll see, or maybe even pushing for the daggone Mountain West Championship game. And Steven, let's see, he's got Boise, Fresno, Wyoming, UNLV, Utah State. We agree.
Yeah, I like that. I like that ranking.
Yeah.
I'm still, like I said, I still, and you had UNLV high, and I didn't.
Well, I didn't put them in order.
Oh, okay.
Those are my 5.
Them in there. Okay.
I just went down the list that I had them here. That's not order. That's not. Gotcha. Mine weren't in any order.
I like Steven's ranking on here. I would actually, in that order, I love it. I think it's perfect.
Okay. Well done, Steven.
Yeah.
Hey, with that, here's what we're going to do real quick for anybody that's still on. We got some new stickers out, and it's our full logo.
Yeah.
Our main logo, not our secondary logo. So I need to figure out how we can get these out to people. So that's my job between now and the next time we go live.
Okay.
Maybe do some. I don't know what we're going to do. I'm not much into apps and all that kind of stuff. We'll figure it out. We're figuring this out as we go. I'm sure my producer can help me figure all this stuff out. But we got some of these really cool new stickers, and I want to make sure we can get them out to people. So, with that, what else you got?
So we should say we may, during the month of June, we have some vacations, some different things coming up. So we may miss a couple of live Wednesday episodes, but if there's any news on the Florida State, any of the ACC cases, we will record special episodes on those. We'll be covering that. We're excited about doing season previews and preseason picks, wins or losses, all that stuff throughout the summer.
Yeah.
But if we miss a couple Wednesdays this month, please bear with us. We got families, we got kids, we got vacations, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, hoping to be here next week. Should be able to do it next week. 2 weeks from now, we're definitely off. So you can check us off. No Big Mountain on the 19th, I think it is. So no Big Mountain on the 19th. Yep. We should be back here again next week. And I just want to say we're working on 2 special guests. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag because I don't know if we have them yet. One will be Mountain West focused, and one will be Pac focused, Pac-2 focused. Yeah. So we're working on 2. We hopefully can get them. We'll get those recorded, and we've also figured out how to have a guest on live via screen time instead of our phone. So we are moving up in the world.
We're looking to put together a Mount Rushmore of guests that we've had on the show for the first year of the Big Mountain. So our producer is working on that. So if you have a certain person, a certain guest that we've had on that you think should be on our Mount Rushmore, let us know. We want to hear. And then we will be having the final installment for this year of the College Football 2030 project we've been doing. And we talked about the Power 2 conferences and what we think those are going to look like. And going forward, we're going to the next episode. We're going to talk about the other conferences, because for me, I don't look at it as Power 4, Power 5, whatever. It's Power 2 and everybody else. So we're going to be looking at everybody else.
Yes, and Bill asked College Football Guy. That's another episode that I was going to break. That we're trying something kind of fun here, or at least we're going to try something kind of fun here. And that College Football Guy may be a part of it. We just have to get our acts together.
We've been trying to pin him down. He's a busy over the road trucker. So
he is. He's going to work with us. We're going to try to get him on. We have a pretty cool idea that Steve has a really cool idea that we're going to try to do with him. Pack 2.0. Yep, Jerry, we got it. Pack 2.0. We'll see where that leads. And of course, everybody that's still on Seminole stuff, Clemson stuff, as Steve said, we'll stay on that. We like to do pack episodes at least every other week. Sometimes, not a ton of new news, but there's things that keep trickling out. And, that was kind of how we built our base here from the very beginning, outside of our wonderful betting picks.
Yes.
But, we got on the pack stuff real quick, and I know we got a lot of Beavs and Cougs fans. We really appreciate you guys. We always like to throw some episodes out there for them as well, because sometimes I think we maybe focus too much on the ACC, and that's not what we're all about.
Right.
But it's fun.
It is.
I like watching all that
breaking news
stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, hey, with that, we thank you guys for watching. Agree, Steven. This was fun tonight. Had a little bit, just kind of open conversation-y, more so than, hey, we want to talk about X, Y, and Z. And it was a lot of fun. We want to thank everybody for being on. Thanks for all the chats. We really appreciate that as well. We'll see you guys next time on the Big Mountain.